You noble diggers, all stand up now.
Welcome, comrade. Never forget the forms.
Hello my friends and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about criticisms of the CPC of China. I get accused all the time of being unfair to America by being too lenient on China. I don't think that's true at all. I think I am exacting in my criticisms of everything. And so to prove that, I'm going to put criticisms forward of the CPC. They're mostly going to be around international politics. I am also basing this in the context. I'm going to be using a clip from Victor Gao's interview with Mehdi Hassan. And Victor Gao is a foreign minister or something like that. And he didn't perform very well in that interview, in my humble estimation. I believe he needs an Anglophone secretary who can help him craft a strategy on messaging that will co-opt and preempt a lot of the talking points that someone like Mehdi Hassan could bring forward. Had he been prepared, I'm sure he would have destroyed Mehdi Hassan. He still performed pretty admirably, but admirably is not good enough for excellence. And excellence must be the expectation in communism. So the main thing that I think was a stumbling block was the framing of what criticisms are allowed in China. There is a perception in the West that, you speak out of turn, you'll be black-bagged in the night by the Communist Party of China. That's not true at all. There are formally much harsher strictures on free speech, but criticism is allowed often. The Chinese constitution was reformed recently, and they accepted 3 million criticisms from the public or contributions from the public. So they're allowed to speak what they think. And also, the positive criticism includes saying that the one-child policy was disastrous and that went on too long. And so just framing it as positive criticism is incorrect.
You wouldn't dare say anything like that because you know what will happen to you when you go home. You know what will happen to your family. That's what China is.
Mehdi, if you do anything, write anything, email or chat to your friends about taking anything action against, let's say, Prime Minister of Britain, President of the United States,
I didn't say that.
You'll be dealt with
That's
very
not what I said.
swiftly.
Victor, you're a master of
in
straw
China,
man. That's
in
not
China,
what I said. I said Rishi Sunak was called a pint-sized loser. Would you call Xi Jinping a pint-sized loser?
Mehdi, each country has different sensitivities. In UK,
so you're admitting you can't criticize the Chinese government?
No. You can criticize the government if you are positive in your attitude.
You can criticize the government if you're positive?
Yes.
Is that the new philosophy?
No, if you can come up with your...
You've got to come up with nice insults?
No.
What then?
Constructive advice.
Constructive advice?
For example,
oh, I'm loving
in
this.
dealing with a...
It's culturally incongruous. How you frame positive criticism in here in the West is to say there can be criticism, but it must be clear of invective. It must be ideologically wholesome. It must be with an aim towards a positive future for the government of China. Saying positive criticism just sounds like you don't allow criticism to the Western ear. And there was another moment where I felt that he stumbled by allowing himself to be caught by the formal policy of China, which is correct, but sounds terrible to the Western ear because they don't know the history and they don't know the context and they don't know what are the alternative solutions, which are much more violent and terrible. And so I bring up the examples of Tibet and the Uyghurs to you. Tibet was a religious slave society, a theocracy, until Mao liberated it in 49, 50, somewhere around there. it's been liberated since then. The Tibetan people live in peace, and the Chinese government gives funds to help promote their culture, and so they are doing all they can to uh, keep the people alive, keep their traditions and their language alive. There is a tide of cynicization that is just unstoppable. I think that the heartland of China produces so many people. The competition is too fierce for class roles around there, and it inevitably leads to colonization, to uh, sort of like refugees fleeing a zone that's not habitable for them anymore. They seek better pastures. And this is a bigger threat with the Uyghurs. The Uyghurs are a Turkic Islamic people who look sort of Sinicized already on the frontiers of China, on the western frontiers. And in the West, there's this talk that they're being genocided, like they're in a death camp or anything. These don't exist. There are re-education camps out there because there is a problem with anyone who becomes radicalized or disenchanted or disenfranchised by their place in China, which is unable to ascend to the top because of the hegemony of the cultural elite, the Han elite. It's gravitational. The people who formed the cadre of the Politburo of the Presidium were all Han, and most of them just descended from the nobility, like Peng Dehuai. And so this just creates momentum that's hard to overcome. And so when Uyghurs are radicalized, they turn to jihadi or fundamental Islamic thinking, which is poisonous, toxic. And so there are these re-education camps and work camps out there that try to encourage people to not give to extremism and to give them opportunity in life that is, and distractions is the word that comes to mind, but it's not the word I'm looking for. Circuses, pleasure. They give them enough community and activities to keep them busy, give them a nice life. I don't think that counts as genocide at all. Noam Chomsky doesn't think it counts as genocide, and he's to the right of me, so I think it's fine. Um, yeah, so what Victor Gao should have said is that these are two populations that China does its utmost to protect. And if you want to talk about uh, genocides going on, let's talk about how the Americans treat the Mexican population or the native population or the black population. Do they encourage and protect and foster and garden their culture as a separate thing that can achieve its own heights within its provinciality? No. There's no opportunity for the peoples that are subjected to the Anglo-American Empire. And the opportunity that is afforded to peoples that are what I like to call Uncle Toms are that they're chosen for their right-wing uh, predisposition. The nobility of the Vietnamese and the Koreans are big in America. There are peoples within India that were selected specifically for this position. Rich Gujaratis and the Punjabis, the Punjabi Sikhs, they seem right wing by nature, or perhaps by their position in society there. And I just can't see it. But, anyways, I feel that China's attitude towards its own power is the problem here, and that's why they don't respond correctly, that they misapprehend how powerful they are, that they have operated on a strategy of a siege state, of a state that is weak for so long that it's the default operating system. They are powerful beyond measure now. And the way that power must act is with magnanimity, with grace, with gift giving. A traveler approaches a sultan on his way to China from the west. The great sultan in India has to give a greater gift to this traveler than he is given by the traveler. It's not about the money, it's about the prestige. The prestige builds faith in your credit, and the credit allows you to have more money. We are now beyond physicality. It is said that the Cold War was waged between two different strategic outlooks, that the Russians viewed it like a game of chess, and the Americans viewed it like a game of poker, and that poker was obviously the better game to analogize throughout, that bluffs are important. America plays poker like an amateur, though. You could play poker their way and demand and lose, or you could play the Chinese way. Is there a better people at gambling on earth than the Chinese? I doubt it. They, make the Americans play 5-deck poker, strain the resources. They have, as a policy, a strict policy against interventionism, which means that they can't help foster communist parties worldwide because they viewed those as unstable and unnatural. That's a misapprehension that's idealistic. You are nature. You are just reality. You are just brute material. And now that you have achieved a system, a nation state that is woven internationally, you cannot help but be part of imperial power. And so you must covertly and with no strings attached make bets. Go out and find young people who are educated and turning communists and give them the funds to continue to operate with whatever they'd like to do. Pay off their student debts, set them up in an office, help them, tell them to try and unionize some workforce as their first task. You could reach out to Kerala. I think it is a travesty how little cooperation there is between the Marxists in China and the Marxists in India, who are basically abandoned. And I think this is for reactionary or patriarchal fears, which is that a communist India would be a threat to communist China, because their production and their unity would lead to a population that may one day fall to reaction and lead back to war. A Hindu reaction sometime down the line, not unlike the Soviet fall, which was a partnership of bureaucrats, capitalists, and theocrats, the Orthodox Church. I'm reminded of that scene from Schindler's List where he talks about power. I'm going to put it in here.
I watch you. You're never drunk. Oh, that's real control. Control is power. That's power.
Is that why they fear us?
We have the fucking power to kill, that's why they fear us.
They fear us because we have the power to kill arbitrarily. A man commits a crime, he should know better. We have him killed and we feel pretty good about it. Or we kill him ourselves and we feel even better. It's not power, though. It's justice. It's different than power. Power is when we have every justification to kill, and we don't.
You think that's power?
That's what the Emperor said. A man stole something, he's brought him before the Emperor, he throws himself down on the ground, he begs for mercy. He knows he's going to die. And the Emperor pardons him. This worthless man, he lets him go.
I think you are drunk.
That's power, Ammon. That is power.
Power is the ability to not respond to the challenges of the weak. Not responding to the challenges of the weak is the whole point of power. It's the whole social point of power. It gives you the prestige to ignore the hates of the little people. And so China has to stop acting like its people are a threat to it. It already does everything it can internally by providing food and work to its people, food, work, and shelter and education to its people. That will prevent revolt. Official repression will not. There should be a more libertine attitude to speech, and the firm hand only used for people who obviously or can demonstrably be shown to harbor sedition in their hearts. I think Jack Ma is a great example of this. Jack Ma wanted the billionaire class to be in charge in China, and that is unacceptable. And to be buddy-buddy with an international rival, a fascist rival like the Americans, is proof positive that he deserves punishment of some kind. But only after he's done it. You can't punish someone beforehand, and you definitely shouldn't punish peasants for speaking out of turn. And peasants mean something different to the Chinese. They mean like the rurals. I just mean the hoi polloi, the workers, the proletariat. They're angry. They don't like the reality that as it is. They should be allowed to speak about it. And you have to extend the hand internationally, as I was talking about. You have to start building alliances. The power is not going to spring up naturally. You are part of the system now. It can only get so bad before the system starts to make things bad for your government. And as that's unacceptable for you, conditions can't reach a boiling point here. Reaching an agreement with soy or rare earth minerals or any number of trade agreements that you've come to with America is for your own economic interest, but you've prevented the outgrowth of communism that was coming in this country because of the conditions worsening. So you got to play both hands. You have to keep the cards close to the chest and not be aggressive in that main hand that you're playing, but start playing other hands. There's $100,000 to someone who may be a good communist leader someday. There's another $100,000 in a different country to someone else. I believe that Nepal and other countries that have been tipped over into color revolutions, with just the lightest finger on the scale, could have been switched to a leader who was backed by a covert Chinese operation. The Americans will not stop their covert operations. You cannot take the world peacefully from them. They will provoke a war. They'll do a false flag. They have to have lost before they even show up. It has to be so overwhelming that they lose. The key to their strength is their international alliances. America is not the enemy. The NATO empire is. The states that just voted against glorification of Nazism at the UN. Maybe I'll flash that here. That's the empire. That's what you're fighting. It can be broken. Dovida et impera. And you have to conquer. Because you're the revolution. The revolution can't spring up elsewhere while it's there. That's ahistorical. That's anti-dialectic. It's idealist. I view most Marxist-Leninists as idealists, that they haven't given up the failures of Marx, which was, why give thought any precedent at all? Why not just accept that fate is there and see what that does for the play style? See what that does for the meta. It makes you better, makes you smarter, makes you faster. You see the waterfall of history. You see the cycle of history more clearly when you think peoples have to react some way. They have interests, they have cultures, they have histories. Their reactions are set, almost in stone. Thank you. Have a nice day. Hello, you've made it to the end of the video. Thank you. This channel has one mission: to prevent civilizational collapse associated with climate change, to prevent 100 million refugees by 2035, to stop 7 billion from starving to death by 2075. And we will do this through one main vehicle. We mean to unite the Anglosphere. We will do this by convincing the Commonwealth of His Majesty King Charles III to apply for statehood as one. And then with this new power, we will be able to negotiate in good faith with the rest of the world on how to tackle this crisis. Thank you and enjoy.